Hey everyone, I'm Matt with Ozark Overland Adventures, and in this video we're going to talk about weight. Now, not my weight or your weight, but the rig's weight. I think weight is a key thing that a lot of people overlook when they are building out their overland rigs. Now, I do want to preface this. I am specifically talking about overland rigs, not hardcore off-road rigs, not rock crawlers, because those are built very different. Typically, a rock crawler is going to be intentionally a very lightweight rig if it is a dedicated rock crawler. Admittedly, my Jeep Sully, it's an overland rig, and it is specifically designed. It is a very good rock crawler, but it's too heavy to be a dedicated serious rock crawler. But it is designed specifically to take me to remote areas and allow me to live out of my Gladiator for days at a time, a week at a time. And that's specifically how this is designed to operate and function. And that's why this is an overland rig, not a dedicated off-road rig. It is very easy, especially when we're talking the mid-size truck and SUV category. It is just ridiculously easy to exceed your vehicle's gross vehicle weight rating, or GVWR. That is the weight capacity that your vehicle is designed to carry max from the factory. Now, I do need to give a couple disclaimers here. First of all, every single vehicle's GVWR is going to be different. There are general specs out there on the internet for what a Gladiator, Rubicon GVWR is going to be, what Wrangler, 4Runner, Tacoma, Pathfinder, whatever. There's general numbers out there to go by, but the only place to find specifically for your vehicle is right here, inside the door. So if we take a look at, let me see if I can do this, turn it this way, there we go. My Gladiator's gross vehicle weight rating is 6,250 pounds. Says so right there. Now, if we go down here to the tire and load info, which is the combined weight of occupants and cargo should never exceed, for my Gladiator, 1,173 pounds. And just to show you that these numbers do change, my wife's Gladiator has a total payload of 1,138 pounds. So for whatever reason, her Gladiator has about 40 pounds less payload than mine. And I don't know why, because hers actually has less options than mine does. So that is where you find your payload. Now, 1,100, we'll say 1,200 pounds. We're going to round up. 1,200 pounds isn't a lot. It isn't a lot at all. Once you add a lift, and an aftermarket suspension is going to weigh more than your factory suspension. Lift, wheels, aftermarket wheels are going to weigh more than your factory wheels. Tires, bigger tires are going to weigh a lot more than your factory tires. Bumpers, front, rear, winch, rock rails, skid plates, all things which should be necessary for, building up your vehicle to go off-road and go to more remote places. That stuff adds up real fast. Add a bed rack and a rooftop tent. I figure these two weigh probably 350 pounds between them. Add the awning. I don't know how much that weighs, but it's not super lightweight. Add two adults in there. Boom, you're over your payload capacity. You're over that GVWR. And then we add a fridge and fuel and gear and food, clothing, all the stuff that we take with us. I would question anybody in a mid-size SUV or truck built out for overlanding. Unless you were just a die-hard minimalist, I bet there are very, very few that actually don't exceed GVWR. Now, it is basically impossible. Well, it's not impossible, but there's a lot of hoops you have to go through that's really not worth it. But ultimately, none of the modifications that you do to your vehicle will officially, legally change your GVWR rating and your payload capacity. And just know that if you're running a heavy rig and you're over GVWR, which I am, Kara is too in her Gladiator, and you get in a wreck, if insurance starts poking around with that and determines, well, your vehicle's overweight and because of that you couldn't stop in time, they're not going to cover you. There is a chance they won't cover you if they start poking around your GVWR and all that sort of stuff because you're outside the specs. So, but that's the legally, that's the legal. That's the legal ramifications of building a rig like this. Now, does that mean there's not practical ways to actually build up your rig to be able to handle the extra weight? Yes, they don't affect it legally, but practically, real world, there are definitely things that you can do, and that's what we're going to get into. First thing we'll talk about is your tires. Tires do come in payload ratings. Some people call it their sidewall ratings, whatever. But that is it's the load range. Load range C, D, E, F. Each of those tells you typically how many plies are in the sidewall, and that determines what type of load those tires can handle. When I first switched to the 38-inch Milestars on Sully, I was running their C-rated tires. They worked. They were great. I mean, I was definitely within the payload range. But when it was time to replace that set of C-rated tires, I did move up to their D-rated tires, which is now what both of our Gladiators have on them, are D-rated. And you can actually tell a difference. Just the sidewall flex, a little bit of roll, a little bit of a flex and body roll and stuff you get from having a lower rated tire compared to a higher rated tire. You'll notice that. So having a proper rated tire on your vehicle to carry the weight is important. I don't think, I have run an E-rated tire before, back when I had my JK. Man, that is one super stiff sidewall. Some people think that rating gives you a tougher sidewall, and there's some validity to that. But it also gives you a much just stiffer, firmer ride as you climb up in the sidewall ratings. So for our purposes, I have found that the D-rated tire kind of hits the sweet spot. It airs down well, gives me plenty of sidewall flex when I'm off-road, but handles the load really well when I'm driving on pavement, driving on the highways, going around curves, that sort of thing, which is important. Kind of going hand in hand with the tire choice is going to be suspension. Now, you see tons of people commenting, complaining, asking what can I do. I have added rack intent onto my vehicle, and now the back end is squatting. It's sagging. What can I do? Well, having a proper suspension designed to handle that extra weight is critical. When I first got my Clayton suspension, I went with their standard coils here in the rear, and they were fine. They worked really well for what I had, but then I added the full height rack, a little bit bigger tent. That back end was sagging again. So I switched to Clayton's HD coils for the rear, and that was a huge game changer in just how well the back end with all the weight on it sat, how well it performed, how well it felt on the road. So having properly rated springs is crucial if you're going to have a heavy rig. I don't recommend putting HD springs in there if your rig isn't heavy enough to compress the springs and you know, allow the springs to do what they're designed to do. If you have HD springs without enough weight, you're going to get a really rough, stiff ride out of them. Lots of companies are making HD springs. Clayton does, AEV does, Dobinson does, Metal Cloak does as well. I don't know that Rock Crawler does now. And they're all rated differently. So if one spring, you know, one company's HD spring may be rated for more or less weight than the other. So it's worth calling the company and finding out. But proper springs is crucial. And along with the springs, the shocks. Shocks matter as well. When I first got my Gladiator, I was running the Bilstein 5100s. They were fantastic. Switched to the Fox 2.0s, and you could tell they were valved very differently from the Bilsteins. And it was just much softer, much more body roll. They just didn't handle the weight as well as the Bilstein 5100s. Switched to the Elka shocks. They were great. They're adjustable. But as the weight of my Gladiator has increased, the Elkas, I was having to max them out on the adjustment to contain my body roll and to make it not feel like it's, diving when I'm hitting the brakes, those sort of things. So having proper shocks matter. I have just recently switched over to the new Bilstein 8100 DSAs, and right now I'm running just over the middle. There's 20 clicks of soft compression adjustment. I'm on 13, so I've still got seven more clicks to go to stiffen it up if I need to. Lots of leeway to soften it down if I want to, but these shocks have made a huge difference on my Gladiator and how it feels on the road. Windy situations, my Jeep's not swaying as much as it was. Body roll is controlled. Feels great off-road. They soak up the bumps. So tires, springs, shocks, properly rated for the load you're carrying is key. The other thing to consider is your gearing. If you're going to be running a heavy rig, you need a little bit more gearing in your differentials than you would if it was a lightweight rig in stock. I'm running 513 gears in Sully. When we got Kara's Gladiator, the plan was to keep it a truck, not putting the topper on the back, not putting a tent, not putting a bunch of gear in the back, that sort of stuff. The plan was to keep it as a truck and lightweight. For that purpose, I was going to put 488 gears in Kara's Gladiator. But things change, give a mouse a cookie kind of thing. And before we knew it, she's running the topper. She's got a fridge in the back. We've got a lot more armor on it than we originally planned on putting on it. So when we recently re-geared Kara's Gladiator, instead of going with 488s, we went with 513s. Proper gearing, at least in the Jeep world, you've got 410s, 433s, 456s for 35s, 488s for 37s, and typically 513s would be for larger tires than 37s, typically a 40-inch tire. Adding the added weight that your vehicle now has to move as well necessitates going with I would think the next step up in gear choices. So whereas ideally 488s would be the perfect gearing for our Gladiators if they didn't have all the stuff with the extra weight, 513s are the way to go. Now, obviously, if you've got a Nissan or a Toyota or a Chevy or whatever, those gearing numbers are going to be different, but the principle is the same. If you're running heavy, go up a size in your gears to handle that extra weight. And then finally, the thing that I think gets probably overlooked the most when it comes to vehicle upgrades are the brakes. And I don't know if you noticed this or not, but all of the upgrades that I've talked about, None of them are cool and flashy, and you know, people go, ooh, yeah, you upgraded your differentials, or you put on, you know, higher rated springs. None of this is the cool stuff, but this is the important stuff. So I think the thing that most people overlook are the brakes. And the most recent upgrade that I have done to Sully is install this new power brake kit from Power Brake. Now, what this gives you is a larger rotor. You have to be careful what wheels you're putting this on, because it doesn't fit with every single wheel, because it is a physically larger rotor. This is my old rotor. This was from Power Stop. So not factory, but same size as factory. And it is a larger rotor than factory. I think the diameter of this one was 13 inches. This one's about 13 3/4 inches. So bigger rotor. Pistons. I mean, the Gladiator already comes with some pretty large front brakes, but the power brakes are even larger pistons, larger pads, and make for much better stopping power when you're talking about a heavy rig. And you know, you can talk all day about, you know, not regearing, and you know, I don't care if it's low, you know, off the line. I don't care if it's, you know, got a little bit less power, but you've got to be able to stop that thing. So brake upgrades are, I think, the most important overlooked upgrade on a heavy rig. So super happy with this power brake kit. Really easy to install too. If you have the skills to bleed brakes, you can do this upgrade. Me and my buddy Ben knocked this upgrade out in just a couple hours on a Saturday morning. It was super duper easy to replace everything, new brake lines, bleed the brakes. I mean, it's just not that hard. All right, well, that's it. Pretty short and sweet. You got your tires, springs, shocks, gearing, brakes. None of it's pretty, none of it's flashy, all of it is critical. So if you are running a heavy overland rig, which I'm guessing most of you watching probably are, make sure that you have addressed these issues on your rig. Not for legal purposes, because there's nothing you can do to legally change your payload in your GVWR, but real world, practical, real performance type improvements for a heavy rig, all of these make a big difference. So I do hope this was helpful. Hope I've given you some things to think about if you're running a heavy overland rig. So if you would, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not. Check out the Patreon link in the description, or this QR code right here if you're watching this on television. And you know, consider supporting the channel. Gain access to special events, special content, all of our GPS data from our trips, and for all of our merchandise, shirts, hats, patches, stickers, etc. Go to shopoverlandapparel.com. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.